Welcome to the fifth lesson. In this, we will be talking about stakeholders engagement. So in this domain, we will be talking about stakeholders management or stakeholders engagement. The right word is engagement as used in PMI, Project Management Body of Knowledge Guide, 6th edition and 7th edition. So stakeholders engagement. We'll be talking about communications management. We will be discussing Agile toolkit for promoting effective communication. We'll discuss role of information radiators, that how information radiators are helpful in bringing transparency about Agile projects. And then we'll be talking about social media communication and participatory decision-making. And in the last, we will be covering facilitation methods. Let's talk about it. So first, we need to have a clear understanding that what's the meaning of term stakeholders. So stakeholders, as defined in PMBOK guide, stakeholders are people or group who will be impacted by or have an impact on the project. This is a pretty broad term that includes the customers, sponsors, and business representative, as well as the project leaders, development team, vendors, and other people inside or outside of the organization who will be affected by the project or its results, including the product's end users. Getting stakeholders involved, in other words, engaging them in the project, is absolutely vital for the success of any project. This domain covers a variety of practices that Agile teams use to successfully work with project stakeholders. To organize this discussion, we'll group these practices into 5 themes: taking care of stakeholders, establishing a shared vision, communicating with stakeholders, working collaboratively, and using critical interpersonal skills. In traditional project management, stakeholders management is the process of managing the people who are involved in the project. So management of people who are involved in the project is called stakeholders management, who are involved in the project. This starts with identification of the stakeholders and continues with controlling and directing their participations in the project plan until they are released from the project. While this makes logical sense, it seems to be a rather inhumane process that treats people as resources, which is not the best starting point for fostering support and collaboration. When we talk about managing people, it implies that we are telling them what to do and controlling their activities. This isn't always the case. Most good project managers know that we get the most out of people by acknowledging their skills and getting them engaged in planning their work. However, in some Agile communities, the term management has come to mean top-down command and control direction. That is why PMI prefers the term engagement. The idea of safeguarding and looking after people is better aligned with Agile's servant leadership model. Stakeholders engagement means looking after everyone on the project and making sure they have everything they need to succeed. This isn't a passive role. Sometimes serving and safeguarding may mean directly addressing the problem of people performance or inappropriate behavior. Like stakeholders management, stakeholders engagement includes the initial efforts to identify who the stakeholders are. Some stakeholder will be obvious and some stakeholders you need to identify. So let's talk about who are project stakeholders. Normally, stakeholders, an individual or group organization that may be affected by, or perceive itself to be affected by a decision, activity, or outcome of a project is called stakeholders. So if we consider project, so there are diverse set of stakeholders like customers, suppliers, end users, community, government, employees, managers, sponsors, and any organization associated with the project. All these are project stakeholders. Stakeholders community varies from project to project. It depends upon the type of project, the type of organization, its networking, and the type of activities which are involved. If a lot of subcontracting or outsourcing is involved, then a lot of vendor and suppliers would also become part of the stakeholders community. If the project is relevant to government or where approvals are required, then government and regulatory or administrative organs could become part of project stakeholders. So this is a broad list of stakeholders community. These are the people or group who can impact the project or could be impacted by the outcome of the project. So as a project manager, it's our responsibility to engage with these stakeholders. If we do not engage with these stakeholders, then we won't be able to get the necessary support which is required to make the project successful. That's why engaging them effectively is very, very important for successful completion of the project. Stakeholders and communications management. So in order to engage with the stakeholders, we need to communicate with them. And communication should be effective. In order to make stakeholders engagement and communication effective, we need to perform some activities. For example, the very first thing which is required is identification of stakeholders. So first of all, we need to identify stakeholders. So identification of stakeholders is very, very important. And results of this identification process are documented in a document which is called Stakeholders Register. Stakeholders Register is a very simple document which contains detail about all the stakeholders, like name of stakeholders, their role in the project, their organization, their contact details, their requirements, so all these things are documented in Stakeholders Register. Once stakeholders are identified, the second thing is we need to define engagement strategies, that how to engage with these stakeholders. And engagement strategies would vary depending upon the power, interest, and influence of the stakeholders. Stakeholders' power, their interest, their role, their expectations are different from each other. If power, interest, influence, and behavior are different from each other, then we need different engagement strategies to engage with them. Once these strategies are defined, then we engage with stakeholders and we monitor their engagement level. And in order to monitor their engagement level, we use a document which is called Stakeholders Engagement Assessment Matrix. So overall, if we conclude, we develop Stakeholders Register, where we document list of all stakeholders. We develop Stakeholders Engagement Plan and Communication Engagement Plan, where we define engagement strategies, that how to engage and communicate with stakeholders. This could be a detailed document. This could be a broadly framed. It could be formal. It could be informal, depending upon the requirement of the project. And we develop Stakeholders Engagement Assessment Matrix to monitor the engagement levels of various stakeholders. We'll be talking about engagement assessment matrix, and we'll develop some grades, matrices, and models to categorize stakeholders into different categories depending upon their power, interest, and influence.